Welcome to the Real Life Podcast at Hermitage Hills, where we have real honest conversations with real people about topics relevant for today. At Hermitage Hills, we desire to see people experience life change through Jesus Christ. For more information about our church and how you can be a part of the community here, visit hermitagehills.com/connect.
And that's a beautiful testimony of his life. And for those who are listening or watching as well, but for others, it doesn't seem to work that way. Like we had a podcast with Colleen Longmire and her struggle with leukemia and her cancer. And I mean, she had some really dark moments where, her story was, I wanted people to come alongside, help me, and they did. But I had some really dark moments where my faith wasn't as strong as I would want it to be. Praise God that Jerry had that, foundation, and Colleen did too. They're just two different people.
Yeah.
And walking a little bit two different journeys, loving the same Jesus. But I agree with what you're saying. What a testimony of Jerry going, I know what I'm facing. I know what I'm dealing with. I trust in God. And Colleen did too, but just it affects people's emotions a little bit differently.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story for Jerry, for you to observe that and to watch that, and for me as well, and to be encouraged by that, and hoping that, if we face a crisis like that, we get the call with the C word in it.
Yeah.
That we'll be able to, like Jerry, remember that and be able to see that through. Because some people do hit that with like, why me, God? And I understand that. And I don't think that makes them less of a person.
No.
But some people handle it like Jerry, like, why not me, God?
Yeah.
It's why not? If that's what you want to bring glory to yourself, then hey, that's good.
Yeah.
But I understand both sides of that story. So tell me, when you that's a great part of the story, but were there other things as you saw him go through treatment and in conversations, anything else come along those lines from his cancer that you can recall or think of?
Well, I'll share with you in the letter, one of the times I visited with him, he sent me away with some money to give to a church member who was in need.
Right.
So, that he didn't give it to me, but he gave to me the example of keep on giving, keep on being generous, because that's who he was. And then another time he sent me away with pamphlets that he had ordered or gotten for our class on the life of the Apostle Paul. And just his giving spirit ministered to me. One of the neat things, Polly, Steve Hooker, and I'm his co-teacher, and he'd known Jerry longer. And so Steve went with me at least a couple of times over to Jerry and Paulette's to visit. And we had good times together. And out of that, Jerry wasn't up to coming to class. And so we asked he and Paulette if we could bring the class to them.
Right.
And they said yes. So we got to do that on two different occasions.
I remember that.
And that was really special.
Yeah.
I was blessed seeing Jerry and Paulette smile. And it blessed our other class members because we all got to be around Jerry together.
Well, that's the common thread in faith that's genuine, builds community.
Yeah.
God's wired us to do life together.
Yeah.
We're better together, which is kind of our life group theme. We're a church made of circles, not of rows.
Yeah.
Because life change happens best in circles, not in rows. So that's a beautiful part of y'all's story, not only about Jerry and your mentoring relationship, but your group.
Yeah. We got to include others. And
Yeah.
because Paulette was there, Sherry came, my wife, at least one of the times. She could have been there both times. I don't remember. But it was just a good time of fellowship. And it had been Jerry's practice because we're in Explore the Bible.
Right.
So book studies.
Right.
When we'd come to a new book, I didn't start this. I don't know who started it with Jerry, but he would introduce the book. That was kind of his task when we come to a new book. And we were missing that with him not there. So one of these times that we met at their house, we were starting Obadiah, and it may have been start and finish, one lesson shot on Obadiah. But I asked Jerry if he would be up to, if he wanted to, share like he had, because I wanted to give him that opportunity.
Sure.
And again, he said, yeah. So he prepared a lot, and we benefited from hearing him, and I know he was overjoyed just to share with us.
That's sweet.
About Obadiah and what he had learned.
Yeah, I love that. So here where the story continues, you guys are weaving your lives together, and yet Jerry's life, is evident that the cancer was growing and taking over his body, and here you are. How did you walk through that towards the end when it was just clear to all of us that the Lord was going to call Jerry home? And here's a guy that, man, your hearts have molded and melted together, and we all know that the only way to get to Jesus is through that door called death.
And unless the rapture comes.
Right, unless the rapture comes first. That's the only way. So as you experienced that, as you got closer to that, is some thoughts from you about how you were feeling or what you were kind of going through there for us?
Well, again, I had a lot of admiration for Jerry and his faith, and I think we feed off of each other's faith, He had asked our class to be in prayer, especially for one person who's close to him. And you'd asked me before if, I had feelings of anger towards God.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry's one real prayer request was for this person close to him, that this one would become a believer before he died. And so our class was praying for this person along with Jerry and Paulette, and I just knew the Lord would lead this person to salvation. Well, it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of ticked, to be honest, in the moment at the time.
Sure.
But again, feeding off Jerry and Paulette, it's in God's timing. Our job's to sow the seed, tell the story,
right,
and leave the results to God.
Mm-hmm.
He brings salvation to pass in the hearts of people, and so that was part of the journey. It was disappointing, but it didn't. Jerry was disappointed, but again, it didn't seem to get him down.
But here, Jerry's still speaking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's towards the end, prayerful that this would happen. And Jerry goes to be with the Lord. It hasn't happened, but yet Jerry's still speaking. He's still mentoring.
Yeah.
You and others about It's hard. It's difficult. Nobody's going to say it wasn't. But yet Jerry was speaking like, "Hey, it's God's timing.
Yeah.
When God does what God wants to do, when He wants to do it, that's why He's God. We're not.
Yeah.
So.
And he and Paulette, they were already close, but I think they had extra time together because when you're put on hospice, usually. The long end of it's like 6 months. Could be shorter, but we'll say maybe 6 months. Well, after he was put on hospice, he was still with us for over a year. And he and Paulette really had a special time together. And, you're a married man, I'm a married man. Marriage is not easy, it's a struggle. Just seeing them together and hearing their stories again was a blessing to me, especially in light of what they were facing. Jerry died just before Valentine's 20 2020, just before COVID hit too. And he was in the hospice center there in Nashville on Valentine's, and Sherry, my wife, was working there at the call center. And so I took some roses and a gift to my Valentine, and then I took a rose over to where Jerry and Paulette were, and Jerry was, unconscious at this time. And Paulette and I went aside a moment, and I wasn't doing this in place of Jerry, but in his behalf, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I said, Paulette, I know you know this, but I want you to know that Jerry told me he wouldn't be the man that he was if it wasn't for you. So I'm giving you this rose in his behalf, for Valentine's. So I don't know if that was special to her.
Well, I'm sure it was.
But it was for me to get to do that in behalf of Jerry.
Yeah.
And we hadn't known Paulette when this started. That was a part of the bonus. I mentioned to you, Sherry and I gained a sister in Christ.
And that continues to today. The relationship, the conversation.
Yeah.
How was that for us? Jerry's gone to be with the Lord, and you all still hanging with Paulette. How's that?
Well, COVID has interfered a lot because
her health, right? Things got to be real careful. Y'all's health.
Yes,
I'm sure.
And we would have gone and done more for her if we'd been allowed, but just with all the restrictions and things, I'm trying to think, Polly. I've seen her once or twice. I've gone by and to again she was giving me some books she said Jerry wanted me to have after his passing. So I saw her at the door, and then one other time I went and their son Stan was there, and I gave him something at the door, and I think I saw her in the background. So I've hardly seen her, but we have written, and we've talked on the phone a few times just to keep in touch and check up on one another. And we talked on the anniversary of Jerry's passing. Homegoing.
Sweet. So tell me, when you think about this mentoring, since the message to Jerry, to the journey with Jerry to date, tell the folks listening, watching today, of your thoughts of that journey. Would you do it again? Would you encourage others to do it? Is it worthwhile? What's this? Is it something you would jump in with others?
Yes, definitely. It's worthwhile, and I have and want to encourage others to do it. I'm looking to do more of it myself. I had another elder brother in our church picked out, and then COVID hit, and that kind of put the brakes on a lot of things, and he's been kind of back offish, Age is a big thing. So I did just ask another elder brother. He's not a member of our church, but I asked an older man in the faith just recently if he would help mentor me. I said similar things to him that I said to Jerry. I'd like to hear some of your stories and learn how the Lord's blessed you. And he said he'd have to think about it. But one of the things he said, Polly, was, a lot of us older people have lots to share and nobody to listen. And I already know that. They're like books of wisdom. And so I want to tap into that, and it takes time, and a lot of people just need to have that invitation. So yeah, I'm looking to do more of it myself, and I would encourage others to do it. Because like we talked about, I didn't just get to know Jerry more, but Sherry and I got to know Paulette, and that's ongoing. Stan, their son, had been to our class, but I got to meet him and his wife, Mary, and their other son I'd never met, Brad, and his wife, Susan. We met them. It was kind of funny. We were at the hospice center when I met Brad. He'd come in from North Carolina where they live, and we're introducing each other, and he's telling me about some of the health issues he's had, why he hadn't been able to come as much as he'd like. And as he's telling me, I'm thinking, yeah, your dad had us praying for you. I remember we prayed for you. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So to wind this up, at Hermitage Hills, we've said for years, we are better together. How will John Herod take that forward? Got the mentoring. When you look at the life group you're part of, attending the ministries here at the church, how will John take that forward? We're better together.
Well, there's that saying, no man's an island to himself, and we're interdependent, especially in spiritual matters. So again, I'm looking to be mentored. I want to always be a learner, a disciple.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're obligated, as we learn and are disciple, to pass it on as part of our calling and being faithful. So at the same time that I was being mentored by Jerry and learning of him, another man in the church came to me and asked me if I would do that with him.
Oh, sweet.
So I was kind of doing it on both sides.
Yeah.
And I'm open to that still.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share my stories, you know.
Take it in, give it away.
Yeah.
Take it in, give it away.
Yeah, I heard a message this week on the radio. We're not meant to be reservoirs. We're meant to be, now I've lost the word, but a body of water that has an inflow and an outflow.
Right.
Not just a stagnant place where we're
receiving stagnant everything. Water doesn't turn out very good.
No.
It gets kind of scummy and gets kind of smelly.
Yeah.
Gotta have a flow in, a flow out to keep that water fresh, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
And if we're not listening to others, we get too opinionated, think too much about ourselves.
Yeah.
And as part of the blessing of learning from others, that the things we go through and the things we suffer, we're not alone. Other people have already been through them. Why not learn what they've learned and listen to them and benefit?
I've comforted you so you could comfort others.
Yes.
Right? Something in the Bible about that. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much, John, for joining with us on this episode of mentoring and being mentored and mentoring someone else. That's part of the call of go and make disciples, right?
Yes. And let me say again, thank you as our pastor for putting those challenges out there to us to step up. That's one of my favorite sayings from you, is to step into. We talk about next steps, but you say that quite often. We need to step up and step into. So I'm working on that.
That's all of us, man. That's all of us. Hey, thank you for joining with us on Real Life, and pray that today's conversation, maybe God will lead you to be mentored by someone, and for you to mentor someone else. It's part of the best part of walking close to Jesus when we're doing that. Because that's what Jesus did, I think, when you look at his life. So, hey, I hope you'll connect to that, and we'll hope you'll see you on other episodes of Real Life real soon. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Real Life, a ministry of Hermitage Hills. If you'd like to be a part of a community seeking to follow Jesus and experience life change, visit us at hermitagehills.com/connect. You'll also find ways to ask for prayer and how to take the next steps in your faith journey. We'd love to partner with you as you grow in your faith and experience real life.